You can still buy a house in the US for under $10,000. Let that sink in. In a market where the average starter home now flirts with $500,000, there are places where the asking price for an actual structure with a roof, walls, plumbing, maybe even a porch, is less than what you paid for your last used car. Sounds illegal, right? It's not. It's just America if you know where to look. But let's be brutally honest, nobody's giving away paradise. These towns come with trade-offs, contradictions, and quirks so intense they feel made up. Crime rates that read like dares, water systems with reputations darker than true crime podcasts, or neighborhoods so quiet you can hear your future echo. Yet, and here's the twist, people are buying in. Retirees, first-time home buyers, remote workers who just want some damn peace and an extra fridge. Why? Because what's cheap in America today is no longer a joke. It's a strategy, a loophole, and in some cases, it's the only way out of a broken housing game. The question is, can you handle what comes with that low sticker price? We're diving into 10 towns where home prices are shockingly, jaw-droppingly low, places that feel forgotten by Zillow but whispered about in forums. And in one case, there's a town that will basically hand you the land if you're brave enough to live with what's buried underneath. So get ready. We're not just talking prices, we're talking mood, risk, regret, rebirth, and whether a $9,000 house is really a deal or a dare. Number 10, Gary, Indiana. You've heard the name, probably in a sentence that ended with "don't go there." But what if I told you the median home price here is hovering around $45,000? And we're not talking charred shells of buildings. We're talking full-size houses with yards, basements, and in some cases intact hardwood floors that haven't seen a tenant since the Bush administration. This place is a paradox. You're 40 minutes from downtown Chicago, yet it feels like you've crossed into a completely different economic dimension. Once a booming steel town, Gary got hit so hard by deindustrialization that it never got back up. Entire blocks were abandoned, the population halved, and the national reputation brutal. A Redditor once said, "Gary is where hope goes to retire." But that's only half the story. There are still families here, churches, schools, front porches with wind chimes and basketball hoops. And thanks to city grants and curious out-of-staters, some neighborhoods are flickering back to life. The upside? Dirt cheap real estate. The downside? Infrastructure that creaks, high crime in pockets, and a lingering sense that you're living in a place that's fighting its own myth. Picture this. You wake up in a 2-story brick home you paid less than a new Toyota for. You sip coffee on a porch where you can hear the wind, and maybe a train. There's no Starbucks, but your mortgage is less than your old internet bill. It's quiet, maybe too quiet. But is that peace? Or is it just absence? Number 9, Flint, Michigan, the city that became shorthand for everything broken in America. But what if I told you the median home price here sits just above $30,000? That's not a typo, that's Zillow in disbelief. You can still find properties in Flint listed for less than the cost of your last dental procedure. Of course, the price comes with context. Flint's name is burned into the national psyche thanks to the 2014 water crisis, a disaster that turned a struggling post-industrial town into a symbol of systemic failure. Lead, lawsuits, bottled water drives, and a whole generation raised to be suspicious of the tap. That kind of PR doesn't wash off easy, but here's what the headlines miss. Flint didn't vanish. In fact, parts of it are slowly, stubbornly coming back. Local colleges, revamped parks, even new art installations on crumbling walls. And yes, safe blocks with rehabbed homes and new plumbing systems, where the stigma still hangs heavier than the smog ever did. One Redditor summed it up perfectly. Flint is like a punchline people keep using long after the joke stopped being true. Translation: it's not 2015 anymore. And if you're brave, the deal is real. Picture this. You're walking your dog past a house you bought for $28K. Your neighbors wave. There's a corner store with a mural of Aretha Franklin. You avoid the tap water. Out of habit now, not necessity. And yeah, people still give you a look when you tell them your zip code, but you've got space, quiet, and equity. Not bad for the price of a secondhand Subaru. Number 8, Danville, Illinois, where a 4-bedroom Victorian with stained glass windows and original hardwood can cost less than a year's tuition at community college. Median home prices here, floating around $55,000. That's not for a shed, not for a mobile, for an actual house with history, architecture, and in some cases a spooky attic for character points. So what's the catch? Danville used to hum with factory jobs and blue-collar pride, but like many Midwestern towns, it got ghosted by industry and left with too many houses and not enough people. The downtown still looks like it's waiting for a movie crew to film a post-apocalyptic quiet drama. Think Hallmark meets Rust Belt. And while crime isn't sky high, the job market can feel like a game of musical chairs, with half the chairs gone. Still, there's something eerie and beautiful about it. A Redditor once said, "Danville is where time took a smoke break and forgot to come back." There are blocks, so peaceful, you can hear your own doubts echo. Locals are stubborn, the kind of people who fix their porch light with duct tape and still go to the same diner their grandma did. Picture this, you wake up in a house you paid $60K for. There's mist on the lawn, the coffee tastes better in this silence, and your neighbor waves with the same hand he uses to mow 5 yards a week. It's calm, it's static, it's either peace or purgatory. Number 7, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where the median home price is just under $50,000, and the rent, sometimes less than a studio in Little Rock. On paper, it's a steal. Wide streets, old Southern charm, and houses big enough to get lost in, all at a price that makes the American dream feel like it's on clearance. But then comes the twist. Pine Bluff has one of the highest crime rates in the country. We're talking 1 in 50 chance of being a victim. That's not a statistic, that's a roulette wheel. The city struggled with poverty, population loss, and an opioid crisis that's left scars on more than just property values. Still, it's not a ghost town. People live here, love here. They're building gardens in abandoned lots, putting up murals on boarded windows. There's an HBCU, a surprisingly active local arts scene, and real hope in small doses. A Redditor said it best. Pine Bluff is like a broken violin. Sounds rough, but the right person can make it sing. So why are people still buying? Because for some, the math makes sense. Retirees on fixed incomes, DIYers willing to risk it, folks escaping overpriced chaos who decide they'd rather take their chances where the mortgage doesn't strangle them. Picture this, you sit on a porch swing at sunset. The air smells like honeysuckle and BBQ. There's a siren in the distance, sure, but also laughter from the house next door. You paid $45Kers for this place. That's not a house, that's an escape plan. Number 6, Beckley, West Virginia, where the hills roll, the rent's low, and the silence almost too loud. Median home price around $70,000. That's for a house with land, maybe a shed, maybe a view, definitely some ghosts of coal past. Once a booming hub in Appalachia's mining network, Beckley still holds on to its roots, both proudly and painfully. The jobs dried up with the coal seams, and what's left is a town trying to stitch together a future with tourism, hospitals, and hope. But you can still feel it, the weight of what used to be. Old mines, rusted signs, generations of families living in the same hollers with stories deeper than the shafts. The upside, that isolation comes with stunning nature, endless hiking, rafting, crisp air, and homes so cheap it feels suspicious. The downside, winters bite hard. The job market is a tightrope, and there's a stubbornness, a sense that if you weren't born here, you might never truly be here. A Redditor nailed it. Beckley's the kind of place where the stars are brighter than the future, but both are still worth staring at. Picture this, you step outside with your coffee and the morning mist is thick enough to write secrets in. You hear birds, not cars. The only rush hour is a deer crossing. Your mortgage? Less than a New Yorker's monthly MetroCard. But the nearest Target is 40 minutes away, and your neighbor still calls the internet that Google machine. Number 5, Cleveland, Ohio. Yes, that Cleveland, but not the one with the stadiums and waterfront condos. We're talking about the pockets, the side streets, the zip codes where a full-size house costs less than a Tesla Model 3, sometimes way less. Median home prices in these areas, around $60,000, and that's being generous. On paper, it's urban gold, access to downtown jobs, public transit, Lake Erie sunsets, and actual culture. Museums, food, sports, breweries. But Cleveland's affordability comes with fine print. The good neighborhoods are thriving. And the bad ones are block by block gambles. Crime, check. Vacancy, check. Hope, surprisingly, also check. The twist, you can live like a king on the right block and feel like a statistic 2 streets over. Investors know this. So do Redditors. One wrote, Cleveland is like dating a supermodel with trust issues. It's great until it isn't, and then it's a mess. Brutal, but fair. Still, there's undeniable opportunity. Local initiatives are flipping homes, community gardens are blooming, and if you're the kind who's handy with a hammer and not afraid of sirens, you could turn a 40K shell into a 140K win. People are doing it, and not just hipsters. Retirees, immigrants, locals who never left. Picture this, you walk into a century-old craftsman with original tile. It smells like paint and possibility. You're 5 minutes from a Polish bakery, 10 from a brewery, and the lake is a shimmering blue slab on the horizon. Your mortgage? Less than $500 a month. Just don't go left out the front door. Go right. Number 4, Decatur, Illinois, where houses still sell like it's 1995 and your biggest neighbor might be a cornfield or an empty warehouse. Median home price? Around $65,000. That's not a fluke, that's the market. This is the kind of place where people don't just buy homes. They inherit them, fix them up with weekend sweat, and pass them down like family heirlooms. What keeps prices so low? Decatur's industrial backbone, mostly in agriculture and processing, hasn't collapsed, but it also hasn't boomed. The population is slowly shrinking, and the downtown revitalization effort, more of a polite shuffle than a sprint. There's stability, not excitement. Think, local manufacturing jobs, low turnover, and a Walmart that probably knows your name. The upside? It's predictable, safe-ish, affordable. The kind of town where traffic is a rumor, and the biggest event of the month might be a high school football game. The downside? It's also forgettable. Some call it boring, others call it peaceful. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. As one blunt Redditor put it, Decatur is like a grilled cheese sandwich. Nothing fancy, but it fills you up and it's cheap. Picture this, your lawn stretches longer than your commute. The air smells like cut grass and grain silos. You wave to your mailman and actually know his name. The quiet is so deep, you start naming the birds. It's not flashy, but it's yours, and nobody's raising your rent ever again. Number 3, Youngstown, Ohio, where the American dream once burned white hot in steel furnaces and now flickers in boarded up diners and backyard bonfires. Median home price, just over $40,000. That's not a typo. That's the price of admission to a place that feels like a ghost story told in slow motion. Youngstown was once one of the richest towns in America. Then the steel left and everything crumbled. Population dropped by over 60%. Factories shuttered. Crime surged. For a while, it felt like the city itself had a broken heart. But here's where it gets strange. People stayed. Not everyone left. And those who did, some are coming back. The twist? Youngstown is cheap, stupid cheap, and the bones are good. Wide streets, old homes, real community DNA. There's even a growing art scene. Some Redditor put it perfectly. Youngstown is like an abandoned cathedral. Busted, beautiful, and weirdly sacred. But it's not all poetry. There are challenges. Jobus prospects are fragile, services uneven, and crime is still a shadow. Yet there's a resilience here that defies economics. Grandparents fixing up porches, college grads buying blocks, locals who wear their 330 area code like a badge of survival. Picture this. You're sipping coffee on a wraparound porch. The wind rustles the newspaper still delivered to your stoop. There's graffiti down the block, sure, but also a kid selling lemonade and a mural going up on the library wall. You bought this house for 38Ks, and somehow it feels priceless. Number 2, Camden, New Jersey, the town that dares you to believe in second chances. Right across the river from Philadelphia, yet galaxies apart in reputation. The median home price? Around $55,000. That's for a home within spitting distance of skyscrapers, cheesesteaks, and billion-dollar real estate. It feels like someone forgot to update the spreadsheet, but here's the baggage. For decades, Camden was the poster child for American urban decay. Violent crime, political corruption, poverty, a full buffet of headlines nobody wants. But lately, the story's shifting, slowly, painfully, but undeniably. The police force was overhauled. Major institutions, like Rutgers and Cooper Hospital, are anchoring new development. Parks are getting cleaned. Families are moving in. Still, the scars are visible. This is not a fairy tale comeback. It's real life, and the comeback's got bruises. Reddit's take? Camden is like a phoenix that crash landed mid-flight, but it's still smoking and it might rise again. So who's buying in? Dreamers, risk takers, folks priced out of Philly who see potential in the grit, artists, first-gen homeowners, and yeah, some investors who bet early. The upside? River views, public transit, a shockingly short commute to Center City. The downside? You're still living in a city climbing uphill on gravel. Picture this. You take a morning jog by the Delaware River, skyline in view. Your neighbors are a mix of old-school locals and hopeful newcomers. You bought a house for 52Ks, and you're watching your block change in real time. It's not glossy yet, but it's alive. Number 1, let's be honest. These towns, they're not secrets. They're not broken, forgotten maps curled up in your grandpa's attic. They're real places with real people and real problems, but also real homes at prices that feel fake. That's the tension. That's the twist. You're not just buying cheap, but you're buying why it's cheap. The uncomfortable truth, these places are affordable because they've been abandoned in one way or another by industries, by leaders, by luck, but they're still standing, still growing inch by inch. And for the right person, someone with grit, patience, and maybe a generator, they might just be a jackpot. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Cheap doesn't mean bad. It means different. Sometimes slower, sometimes louder, sometimes lonelier, but often freer. So who are these towns really for? People with vision. People who want to build something instead of just buy it. People fed up with $2,400. Rent for 700 square feet and rules about doormats. These places aren't escape hatches. They're challenge coins. If you can handle the weird, the wild, and the work, you might just come out with space, peace, and a title deed in your name. Picture this. You pull into your driveway. It's yours. You didn't break the bank. You don't need a second job. You can breathe. The sun sets over a backyard that cost you less than a year's rent in LA. And for once, life feels quiet. Not because it's empty, but because it's finally yours.